My name is Evelyn Carter, and I am 74 years old. The day my granddaughter said she hoped I would disappear, I was standing in a bridal shop, holding my checkbook in my hand. White dresses surrounded us. Lace, silk, beads that caught the light and sparkled like promises. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. Because what I heard that day cut deeper than anything I had heard in my long life. And I have heard a lot. It happened by accident. That's how the worst truths always come out. I had stepped away to speak to the woman at the counter about the final payment. My granddaughter, Naomi, didn't know I could still hear her. She was standing with her friends near the mirrors. One of them laughed and said, "Girl, your grandma is really doing the most." Naomi sighed. "I know," she said. "She's always around." Then she said the words that stopped my breath. "I swear, I wish she'd just disappear after the wedding." The room didn't spin. My heart didn't race. Everything went very still. Very quiet. I stood there, holding a check that would pay for her dream wedding, while she wished I wouldn't exist. Before I continue, let me say this. If stories about family betrayal, hidden pain, and quiet strength speak to you, please subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments what country you're watching from. I want to know who is sitting with me right now. Because what I did after hearing those words changed everything. And you will not believe how this ends. Let me take you back. Back before the dresses. Before the wedding plans. Before the checks. Naomi came into my life the day my daughter died. She was 6 years old. Small. Quiet. Holding a stuffed bear with one eye missing. When I picked her up from the hospital, she didn't cry. She just asked me one question. "Grandma, where will I sleep now?" That was the moment I became more than a grandmother. I became everything. I raised her alone. I was already tired back then. My hands hurt. My knees ached. But none of that mattered. Naomi needed me. So I showed up. Every day. I packed her lunches. I braided her hair. I sat through school plays and parent meetings where people assumed I was just visiting. I corrected them every time. "I'm her guardian," I would say. And I meant it with my whole chest. Money was tight, but love was loud. I worked part-time jobs even after retirement. I skipped vacations. I wore old coats. When Naomi wanted piano lessons, I found the money. When she wanted a better school, I found the bus route. When she dreamed of college, I found the courage. I never complained. Not once. Because I believed something deeply. If you love a child enough, they will feel it. I thought love was enough. Naomi grew. She got taller. Smarter. More confident. And slowly, more distant. She stopped holding my hand. Stopped telling me everything. Stopped saying thank you. I told myself it was normal. "She's young," I said. "She's finding herself." I didn't want to be the old woman who clung too tightly. So I stepped back. Quietly. When Naomi got engaged, she came to me smiling so wide it hurt my face to smile back. "Grandma," she said, "he asked me." I hugged her. I cried. I thanked God. She was so happy. And I wanted to be part of it. "I don't want a small wedding," she said one evening. "I know," I replied gently. "I want it to be perfect." I nodded. "It will be." She hesitated. "Grandma, would you help?" I didn't ask how. I didn't ask how much. I just said, "Yes." That yes cost me my savings. But I didn't tell her that. I paid deposits. Venues. Dresses. Flowers. Cake tastings. I smiled through every appointment. Even when my back hurt. Even when my hands shook. because this was her dream, and I thought I was part of it. But slowly, things changed. She stopped inviting me to meetings. She spoke over me. She rolled her eyes when I asked questions. One day she said, "Grandma, you don't really get this stuff." I laughed it off, but something inside me shrank. Then came the bridal shop. The mirrors. The dresses. The moment I overheard her wish I would disappear. I stood there longer than I should have. I don't know how long. Seconds. Minutes. A lifetime. Naomi laughed with her friends like nothing had happened. I stepped back into the room with a smile on my face. Because that's what I had always done. "Everything okay, Grandma?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. That was a lie. I finished paying. I hugged her. I told her the dress was beautiful. Then I went home. Alone. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with all the wedding papers spread out in front of me. Receipts. Contracts. Dates. Amounts. My hands trembled as I looked at the total. Not because of the money. Because of the truth. I had become invisible. Useful. But unwanted. I replayed her words over and over. I wish she'd just disappear. Disappear. After everything. After every sacrifice. After every silent night, I stayed awake worrying about her future. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat very still and asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if love without respect is just convenience? That night, something inside me shifted. Not anger. Clarity. I realized I had been paying not just for a wedding, but for my own erasure. And I knew then. I would not disappear. But I would change one thing. Just one. And that one chain would force everyone to finally see me. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The morning after the bridal shop, I woke up before the sun. My body felt heavy, but my mind was awake in a way it hadn't been for a long time. I sat at the edge of my bed and looked around my small room, the same room I had slept in for years, the same walls that had heard my prayers, my worries, and my hopes for Naomi. That morning, the room felt different. Not sad. Honest. I went into the kitchen and made myself tea. I didn't turn on the radio like I usually did. I needed the quiet. As the water warmed, I thought about the word she used. Disappear. It echoed in my chest. Not shouted. Not whispered. Just sitting there. I didn't call Naomi that day. That alone was new. Usually, I checked in. Usually, I asked what she needed. Usually, I made sure I was available. This time, I stayed quiet. I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't reach first. By afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Naomi. "Grandma, can you send the payment for the florist today? They're waiting." No greeting. No question. Just expectation. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back something simple. "I'll look at it later." I had never said that before. My heart beat faster than it should have. Not from fear. From chain. She replied almost immediately. "Later when?" I took a breath. Later, I typed again. And I put the phone face down. I went about my day slowly. I cleaned a little. I rested a little. I cooked something small just for myself. Everything felt strange, like wearing shoes on the wrong feet at first. But not painful. Just unfamiliar. That evening, Naomi called. Her voice was sharp, wrapped in sweetness. "Grandma," she said, "is everything okay?" "Yes," I replied calmly. She paused. "You didn't send the money." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I know." Well, they're holding the date, she said. I really need it today. I waited. She had never waited for me before. Grandma, she pressed. I heard you, I said gently. I'm just thinking. Thinking about what? She asked. About me, I replied. The line went quiet. She laughed, uncomfortable. What do you mean? I mean, I said slowly, I've been thinking about how tired I am. She sighed. You always say that. No, I replied. I always felt that, I just didn't say it. Another silence. Are you upset about something? She asked. I closed my eyes. Yes, I said. She sounded surprised. Why didn't you tell me? I thought of the bridal shop. Of the mirrors. Of her laughter. I'm telling you now, I replied. She changed her tone. Softened it. Grandma, I didn't mean anything by what I said the other day. My hands tightened around the phone. You didn't know I heard you, I said quietly. She froze. Heard what? I didn't answer right away. I let the truth sit between us. Finally, she spoke again. You know people joke around, she said quickly. You know I love you. I nodded, even though she still couldn't see me. I know you love what I do for you, I replied. Her voice rose slightly. That's not fair. I stayed calm. Neither is wishing someone would disappear, I said. She gasped. I didn't mean it like that. I smiled sadly. But you meant it enough to say it, I replied. The call ended awkwardly. No goodbye. No resolution. Just space. The next day, something else happened. Naomi came by unannounced. She walked into my house like she always had. But this time, she stopped in the doorway. She looked around, confused. You didn't answer my messages, she said. I sat at the table, folding papers. I was busy, I replied. Busy with what? She asked. I looked up at her. With myself, I said. She sat down hard in the chair across from me. Grandma, you're acting strange. I nodded. Yes. She frowned. Are you trying to punish me? I shook my head. No, I replied. I'm trying to understand myself. That answer didn't satisfy her. She leaned forward. You promised to help with the wedding. I did, I replied. And I have. She opened her mouth to argue. I raised my hand gently. I didn't promise to disappear, I said. Her face tightened. You're making this about you, she snapped. I looked at her calmly. It's always been about you, I replied. This is just the first time it's also about me. She stood up abruptly. So what, you're going to stop helping? I didn't answer immediately. I gathered my papers neatly. Then I said the words that made her eyes widen. I'm going to pause. Pause, she repeated. Yes, I said, until I feel respected. She laughed nervously. You can't just pause a wedding. I met her eyes. I can pause my money, I replied. The room went very still. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. You wouldn't do that, she said. I tilted my head slightly. You didn't think I could hear you either, I replied. She left shortly after that. The door closed harder than usual. Not slammed, but rushed. That night, I sat alone again. But this time, I didn't feel small. I felt steady. I had changed one thing. Just one. I stopped paying automatically. And that small change had already shaken her. I knew what would come next. Anger. Fear. Maybe guilt. But I also knew something else. The people who benefit from your silence always panic when you find your voice. And the next thing Naomi would do would tell me exactly who she thought I was to her. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The pressure did not come all at once. It came in pieces. Small ones. Sharp ones. The next morning, my phone rang before I even finished my tea. It was Naomi. I let it ring. That was new too. She called again. And again. I finally answered on the fourth ring. Yes, I said. Her voice came fast. Grandma, why aren't you answering me? I was busy, I replied calmly. With what? She asked. With thinking, I said. She huffed. Well, you need to think faster, she snapped. The wedding is coming up. I stayed quiet. That made her louder. You promised, she said. You said you'd help. You can't just change your mind now. I listened. When she paused to breathe, I spoke. I didn't change my mind, I said. I changed my position. She laughed, sharp and short. What does that even mean? It means, I said slowly, I won't be treated like I don't matter. She sighed hard. You're being dramatic. That word hit me like a cold wind. Dramatic. After all the nights I stayed awake. After all the checks I signed. After all the love I poured. I was dramatic. I'm being honest, I replied. She scoffed. This is not the time for this, Grandma. You're stressing me out. I closed my eyes. You're stressed, I said gently. I was erased. Silence. Later that day, my sister called. Naomi's mother's sister. She didn't waste time. What is going on with you? She asked. I smiled softly. Hello to you too. She ignored that. Naomi says you're threatening to pull out of the wedding. I'm not threatening, I replied. I'm pausing. That's the same thing, she snapped. I shook my head. No, I said. One is loud, one is careful. She lowered her voice. You're embarrassing her. I leaned back in my chair. Embarrassment fades, I replied. Disrespect sticks. She groaned. You're old enough to know better. I smiled sadly. I'm old enough to know my worth, I said. She hung up on me. That afternoon, Naomi showed up again. This time, she didn't knock. She walked in like she owned the place. Her eyes were red. Her jaw tight. You're ruining everything, she said. I stayed seated. I'm sitting, I replied. You're the one packing. She stopped. Why are you doing this to me? I looked up at her. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I'm doing something for me. She threw her hands up. After everything I've been through. I nodded. Yes. Her voice cracked. You're supposed to support me. I folded my hands. I supported you, I said. For years, quietly. She stared at me. You're selfish, she said. That word hurt. But it didn't break me. I was selfless for too long, I replied. This is what balance looks like. She shook her head. You're choosing now to make a point. I met her eyes. I'm choosing now to stop disappearing, I said. She laughed bitterly. You really think people will understand this? I shrugged. I don't need them to, I replied. She leaned closer. If you pull out, everyone will know. I nodded. Yes, I said. Her eyes widened. You don't care. I answered honestly. I care about myself more. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Because she didn't. The woman who always gave. Always smiled. Always stayed quiet. She was gone. Naomi's voice dropped. If you don't pay, she said slowly, I don't know if I can forgive you. That was the moment. The real one. The moment she tried to trade love for money. I stood up slowly. I didn't ask for forgiveness, I said. I asked for respect. She stepped back. You're choosing this over me. I shook my head. No, I replied. I'm choosing me with or without you." She left crying, not looking back. That night, I sat alone again. My heart hurt, but it didn't feel empty. It felt strong, because I had learned something important. When you stop paying for love, people reveal how much it costs them. And I knew the next move wouldn't be polite. It would be strategic, because Naomi would not give up easily. Not with a wedding so close. Not with eyes watching. And the next thing she did would force me to make a decision that could not be undone. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I knew Naomi would not stay quiet for long. She never had. When things didn't go her way, she didn't sit with them. She spread them. It started the very next day. My phone buzzed before breakfast. Then again. And again. Messages this time. Not from Naomi. From family. Is everything okay? Why are you upsetting Naomi like this? She's under so much stress. You know how weddings are. I stared at the screen, my tea growing cold in my hands. No one asked how I was. No one asked what I heard. They all assumed one thing: that I was the problem. By afternoon, the calls started. First my cousin, then an old family friend, then someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Each voice sounded the same. Concerned. Disappointed. Certain. "She's young," one woman said. "You should be patient." I smiled sadly. "I was patient for 18 years, I replied. She didn't know what to say to that. Another voice said, "You don't want to be remembered as the grandmother who ruined the wedding." I closed my eyes. "I don't want to be remembered as the grandmother who erased herself," I replied. That call ended quickly. Naomi had done it. She had taken our private pain and turned it into a public story. But not the real one. Her version. That evening, I saw it with my own eyes. A post online. A picture of her in her wedding dress. The caption read, "When the people you love choose control over support." Hundreds of comments. Hearts. Sympathy. Support. My hands trembled. Not from anger. From disbelief. I scrolled slowly. She doesn't deserve you. Weddings bring out the worst in people. Stay strong. No one knew. No one asked. I put the phone down. I sat very still. I felt the old feeling return. The urge to explain. To defend. To fix. But then I remembered the bridal shop. The mirrors. The words. Disappear. I whispered to myself. Not this time. The next day, Naomi showed up again. But this time, she brought someone with her. Her fiancé. He stood awkwardly by the door. She sat across from me, arms crossed. "So," she said, "everyone thinks you've lost your mind." I nodded. "Then they're finally paying attention," I replied. She leaned forward. "You're humiliating me." I met her eyes. "You humiliated me first," I said quietly. Her fiancé shifted. "I didn't know it was like this," he said. Naomi snapped at him. "Stay out of it." I looked at him. "You should know," I said calmly. "I'm paying for this wedding." His eyes widened. He turned to Naomi. "You told me your grandma just wanted to help," he said. She looked away. "I did want to help," I said gently. "But help is not silence." Naomi's voice shook with anger. "So what? You're going to ruin everything because your feelings got hurt." I leaned back. "No," I replied. "I'm refusing to disappear." She stood up. "If you stop paying, people will talk," she warned. I nodded. "Yes," I said. "And maybe they should." Her fiancé finally spoke again. "Naomi," he said slowly. Did you really say you wished she'd disappear? The room went quiet. Naomi froze. She looked at me, then at him, then away. It was a joke, she muttered. I stood up then. Slowly. Carefully. A joke, I repeated. That only hurts one person. I looked at him. I raised her, I said. I loved her when no one else did. My voice did not shake. He swallowed hard. Naomi's face burned red. You told him, she snapped. I shook my head. No, I said. You showed him. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. He followed, but paused at the door. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I nodded. I hope you learn from this, I replied. When the door closed, I felt something heavy lift. Not all of it, but enough. That night, I did not check my phone. I did not explain. I did not defend myself. I slept. Deeply. But I knew something important. Naomi had gone public, which meant she had no intention of backing down. And when people feel cornered, they make choices they regret. The next thing she would do would force my hand. And once I made that choice, there would be no going back. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The decision did not come in anger. That surprised me. I thought I would feel rage or sadness or fear, but when I woke up that morning, I felt something else. Calm. The kind of calm that comes when a long argument inside your heart finally ends. I sat at the kitchen table with all the wedding papers laid out in front of me. Contracts, invoices, dates circled in red. I read each one slowly. Not like someone looking for a way out. Like someone taking responsibility for herself. I made a list. What I had already paid. What was still owed. What I was legally committed to. What I was not. I learned something important that morning. I was not trapped. I had choices. I called the bridal shop first. The woman recognized my voice. Mrs. Carter, she said warmly, we were just about to call you. I smiled gently. I imagine you were, I replied. She laughed nervously. There's still a balance on the dress. I know, I said. And today, I'm changing something. The line went quiet. I will cover what I already agreed to, I continued. But I will not be making any new payments. She hesitated. So the upgrades. No, I said calmly. The rush fees, she asked. No. The custom changes. No, I repeated. She cleared her throat. I'll need to note that. Please do, I said. When the call ended, my hands were steady. Next was the venue. Then the florist. Then the planner. Each call was the same. Polite. Clear. Final. I'm pausing further payments. I'm honoring what's already signed. I will not be pressured. Some tried to convince me. Some tried to rush me. One even sighed and said, "This will disappoint the bride." I answered simply. So did she. By noon, it was done. I sat back in my chair and breathed. I hadn't taken everything away. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped disappearing. My phone rang almost immediately. Naomi. I let it ring. Then again. Then again. I answered on the fourth call. Yes, I said. Her voice came sharp and loud. What did you do? I waited for her to finish. You embarrass me, she shouted. The planner called me. The dress shop called me. I stayed calm. I told them the truth, I replied. You don't get to do this, she screamed. I closed my eyes. I do, I said quietly. It's my name on the checks. She laughed bitterly. You're ruining my wedding. I shook my head. I'm redefining my role, I replied. She lowered her voice suddenly, trying something new. Grandma, please, she said. You know how important this is to me. I listened. I really did. Then I answered honestly. You know how important dignity is to me, I said. And you forgot. Silence. She tried guilt next. You're supposed to support me, she said. You're all I have. That one hurt. But I stayed steady. I supported you when you had nothing, I replied. I won't support disrespect. Her voice cracked. So what now? She asked. I leaned back. Now, I said. You plan your wedding with gratitude, not entitlement. She scoffed. You've changed. I smiled softly. Yes, I said. I finally did. She hung up on me. Hard. Within hours, the messages came again. Family. Friends. People with opinions. But this time, something was different. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't explaining. I wasn't shrinking. One message stood out. From Naomi's fiancé. I didn't know everything. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. Not yet. That evening, I went for a walk. The sun was low. The air was warm. I passed the bridal shop. The same one from the first day. I didn't look inside. I kept walking. At home, I cooked myself dinner. A proper one. I set the table. Lit a small candle. I ate slowly. With intention. As I washed my plate, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness. Relief. Pride. Not pride in hurting anyone. Pride in finally standing still. I knew the fallout wasn't done yet. Naomi would not stop. The family would not be quiet. And soon, a choice would be placed in front of me. One that would test everything. Because when people lose control, they don't ask for understanding. They demand obedience. And Naomi's next move would prove whether she wanted a grandmother or just a wallet with a heartbeat. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Naomi did not come to me next. That told me everything. When people still believe they can control you, they come directly. When they know they're losing that control, they go around you. 2 days after I paused the payments, I heard the doorbell ring just after noon. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my chest tightened. It was Naomi's father. My late daughter's husband. A man I had not spoken to in years. He stood there stiffly, hands in his pockets. Evelyn, he said, we need to talk. I stepped aside. Come in, I replied. He sat where Naomi usually sat. That alone felt wrong. I didn't want to get involved, he began. I nodded. Yet here you are, I said gently. He sighed. She's falling apart, he said. She's crying every night. I folded my hands. I cried quietly for years, I replied. He winced. She says you're punishing her, he continued. That you're trying to teach her a lesson. I looked at him steadily. No, I said. I'm teaching myself one. He leaned forward. You know she didn't mean what she said. I tilted my head. Did she deny it? I asked. He looked away. That's not the point, he muttered. I nodded. That tells me it is. He rubbed his face. Everyone's talking, he said. The family is divided. I smiled sadly. Truth does that, I replied. He shook his head. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I took a slow breath. It's only hard because I stopped being easy, I said. He stood up abruptly. You're going to lose her, he warned. I stood too. I lost myself first, I replied. He left without another word. That evening, Naomi finally came back. But not alone. She brought her future mother-in-law, a woman with a polite smile and cold eyes. We just want peace, the woman said as they sat down. Naomi nodded eagerly. Yes, Grandma, peace. I looked at them both. Peace requires honesty, I said. Naomi sighed dramatically. Why are you doing this now? I answered calmly. Because now is when I was told I should disappear. Her future mother-in-law frowned. That was taken out of context, she said. I met her eyes. I was in the room, I replied. She didn't speak again. Naomi's voice softened. Grandma, please, she said. You know I didn't mean it. I waited. She added nothing. No apology. No ownership. Just expectation. You want me to fix this, I said. She nodded quickly. Yes. At the cost of my dignity, I asked. She hesitated, then said quietly, It's just money. That sentence landed heavier than any insult before it. I stood up slowly. No, I said. It's my life. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. You're choosing pride over family. I shook my head. I'm choosing truth over silence, I replied. Her future mother-in-law stood. This is unfortunate, she said coolly. We'll need to reconsider some things. I nodded. So will I replied. When they left, the house felt empty again. But not hollow. Just honest. That night, I opened an old box. One I hadn't touched in years. Inside were letters. Photos. Documents. Things I had saved quietly. Things no one else remembered. Things Naomi had never asked about. I sat on the floor, reading. And that's when I realized something important. There was more I hadn't said. More I hadn't shared. And if I chose truth, it would change more than just a wedding. Because the next choice in front of me was whether to stay quiet forever or finally tell the whole story. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I sat on the floor long after the door closed behind them. The house was quiet, but my head was loud. The box sat open in front of me. Old letters. Folded papers. Photographs with soft edges. Memories I had locked away, not because I forgot them, but because I remembered them too well. I picked up the first letter. My daughter's handwriting. Messy. Young. Tired. She wrote it 2 months before she died. Mom, I'm scared. I don't know how to keep Naomi safe if something happens to me. I swallowed hard. I had promised her something that day. A promise that shaped everything after. I had promised to protect Naomi. No matter the cost. Even if it meant being misunderstood. Even if it meant being hated. I picked up another paper. A report. Folded carefully. I hadn't read it in years. I didn't need to. I knew every word. It was about Naomi's father. About nights he said he was working late. About arguments my daughter never won. About bruises she hid with long sleeves and forced smiles. When my daughter died, Naomi was still too young to understand. But I understood enough for both of us. That man did not fight to keep his child. He let her come with me. Too easily. I thought that was kindness. Now I know it was relief. I protected Naomi from that truth. From knowing why her home was never safe. From knowing why her mother cried quietly in the bathroom. From knowing why I stepped in without asking questions. And in doing that, I became the safe place. The quiet place. The place everyone leaned on. And forgot. Naomi never asked. And I never told. Because I thought love meant shielding. I thought silence was protection. But sitting there on the floor, something became painfully clear. Silence doesn't protect forever. It just delays the reckoning. The next day, Naomi sent me a message. Not angry. Not soft. Cold. If you don't fix this, don't come to the wedding. I read it 3 times. My hands did not shake. My heart did. I replied with only one sentence. We need to talk. She didn't answer. That evening, her fiancé called. I think you should know, he said carefully. She's telling people you're unstable. I laughed quietly. Is that what they always call women who stop giving? I asked. He didn't answer. I didn't know your role in her life was this big, he admitted. I closed my eyes. It was big, I said. It was quiet. He hesitated. There are things she doesn't know about her father, he said. I opened my eyes. What has she been told? I asked. That he just drifted away, he replied. I nodded slowly. That's the lie I carried, I said. The line went silent. Why? He asked. Because I chose peace over truth, I replied. And now I'm paying for it. That night, I slept badly. Dreams I hadn't had in years came back. Doors closing. Voices raised. Promises whispered. When I woke up, I knew something. If Naomi wanted the truth, she would get it. Not to punish her. Not to hurt her. But because I was done disappearing. I gathered the letters. The papers. The proof. I placed them back into the box. Then I closed it. Not to hide it again, but to prepare. Because the next time Naomi came to me, it would not be about money, or weddings, or appearances. It would be about the truth I carried for her whole life. And once that truth was spoken, nothing between us would ever be the same again. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Naomi came 3 days later. Not angry. Not crying. That scared me more than anything. She stood in my doorway like a guest, not like family. Her arms were folded. Her face was tight. I need answers, she said. I stepped aside. Come in, I replied. She didn't sit. She stood in the middle of the room, like she was afraid to touch anything. People are saying things, she said. Things about you, about my dad. I nodded slowly. Yes, I said. She swallowed. You told them, she asked. No, I replied. I stopped lying. Her voice trembled. You're trying to turn people against me. I shook my head. No, I said gently. I'm trying to stop carrying what isn't mine alone. She took a step closer. Why didn't you tell me before? She demanded. I met her eyes. Because you were a child, I said. And I chose your peace over my comfort. She scoffed. So now you choose chaos. I shook my head again. No, I said. I choose truth. I walked slowly to the hallway closet. I brought out the box. The same one I had carried for years. I placed it on the table between us. Naomi stared at it. What is that? She asked. The reason I raised you, I replied. The reason I stayed quiet. The reason I didn't disappear. She hesitated, then reached out. She opened the box. Her hands moved slowly. A letter. A report. A photo. Her face changed with every page. Confusion. Shock. Then something darker. She looked up at me, eyes wide. This can't be real, she whispered. I nodded. It is, I said. She shook her head. My dad would never. Her voice broke. I didn't interrupt. She read more. Her breathing grew uneven. Tears fell onto the papers. You knew, she said softly. Yes, I replied. And you didn't tell me, she asked, hurt creeping into anger. I protected you, I said. From things no child should carry. She slammed the box shut. You had no right, she shouted. I flinched, but stayed standing. I had every right, I said quietly. I was all you had. She paced, ran her hands through her hair. You let me believe he just left, she cried. You let me blame myself. My heart cracked open. I'm sorry, I said. That part was wrong. She stopped packing. You're sorry, she laughed bitterly. You kept my life from me. I took a breath. I kept you safe, I replied. But safety without truth has a cost. She stared at me. What cost? She asked. I answered honestly. This, I said, gesturing between us. She sank into the chair. Her shoulders shook. For a moment, she looked 6 years old again. Small. Lost. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know what you gave up. I sat across from her. I didn't want you to, I said. She looked up at me then. And for the first time in weeks. Her voice softened. I didn't mean what I said, she whispered. About you disappearing. I held her gaze. But you said it, I replied. She nodded slowly. Yes, she said. And now I see why it hurt. Silence filled the room. Not angry. Not gentle. Heavy. Then she asked the question I feared most. So what now? She said. I looked at her carefully. That, I replied, depends on whether you want a grandmother or a ghost. Her eyes filled with tears again. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Her face went pale. It's him, she whispered. I knew who she meant. Her father. The man I had protected her from. She looked at me, terrified. He wants to talk, she said. I stood up slowly. This, I said, is where the truth stops being quiet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Naomi did not answer the call right away. Her phone kept buzzing in her hand like it was alive. She stared at it frozen. I watched her chest rise and fall too fast. He keeps calling, she whispered. I stepped closer. You don't have to answer, I said gently. She shook her head. I do, she replied. I can't keep not knowing. She pressed the button and put the phone on speaker. Hello, she said. The voice on the other end was calm. Too calm. Naomi, he said, it's been a long time. I felt my stomach tighten. That voice had not aged. What do you want? Naomi asked. He sighed, like he was tired of carrying something heavy. I heard things, he said. About your wedding, about your grandmother. Naomi glanced at me. I stayed quiet. This was her moment. You've been talking about us, he continued. Telling stories. Naomi's voice shook. You left, she said. You don't get to talk. He laughed softly. I didn't leave, he replied. I was pushed out. I clenched my jaw. That lie again. Naomi stood up. That's not true, she said. Grandma raised me. He paused. She always did like control, he said. She never knew when to mind her place. My heart pounded. But I did not speak. Not yet. Naomi's hands trembled. You're lying, she said. I'm your father, he replied calmly. I deserve a place in your life, especially now. Why now? She demanded. Because people are asking questions, he said. And I won't be made the villain. That was it. I stepped forward. Then stop talking, I said. There was silence on the line. Then his voice changed. Evelyn, he said slowly. I wondered when you'd speak. Naomi turned to me, shocked. You knew he was calling me, she asked. I knew he would, I replied. You filled her head with lies, he said. You turned her against me. I felt years of weight press on my chest. I protected her, I said. From you. He laughed. You always thought you were better, he said. Look at you now, causing problems. Naomi shouted. Stop, she cried. Just stop. There was a pause. Then he said something that made Naomi gasp. She should know the truth, he said. About her mother. I froze. Naomi's face went pale. What truth? She whispered. I shook my head. No, I said firmly. He ignored me. She was weak, he said. She couldn't handle pressure. That's a lie, I snapped. She was unstable, he continued. She ran away from responsibility. Naomi covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. I stepped closer to the phone. You will not rewrite her life, I said. You will not poison her memory. He scoffed. You're scared, he said. Because if she hears everything, she'll see you're not a hero. I took a deep breath. No, I said quietly. I'm scared she'll see how much I loved her. Naomi sank into the chair. I don't know who to believe, she cried. I knelt in front of her. You don't have to decide today, I said softly. But you deserve the truth. Her father interrupted. Invite me to the wedding, he said. Let people see I'm still her father. Naomi looked at me, torn. He pressed harder. If you don't, he warned. I'll tell my version. The threat hung in the air. I stood up slowly. Then tell it, I said. Both of them froze. I've been quiet for years, I continued. But I kept everything. Letters, records, truth. He went silent. Naomi looked up at me. You kept proof, she asked. Yes, I replied. Not to destroy him, to protect you. The call ended suddenly. He hung up. Naomi stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. All this time, she whispered. You carried this alone. I nodded. Yes, I said. And it almost made me disappear. She reached for my hand. I don't know what to do, she said. I squeezed her fingers gently. You don't have to know yet, I replied. But whatever you choose next, choose it with truth. She nodded slowly. But I could see the fear in her eyes. Because the next step would not be quiet. It would be public. And once the truth stepped into the light, someone would fall. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The wedding day came faster than I expected. I woke up before dawn, the way I always had when something important was coming. But this time, I did not feel nervous. I felt steady, like a tree that had already survived the storm. I dressed slowly. A simple navy blue dress. Comfortable shoes. No pearls. No lace. Just me. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. She stood straight. Her eyes were clear. She looked present. Naomi arrived an hour later. She didn't knock. She stood in the doorway quietly. Grandma, she said. I turned to her. She was already dressed. Her wedding gown hung behind her like a question waiting to be answered. I didn't invite him, she said softly. I nodded. I know, I replied. She swallowed. He's telling people lies, she said. He says you poisoned me. I smiled gently. Truth doesn't need shouting, I said. It just needs time. She sat down across from me. I read everything again last night, she said. The letters, the reports. I watched her hands shake. I didn't sleep, she whispered. I know, I said. She looked up at me, eyes wet. You saved me, she said. I shook my head. I loved you, I replied. That's different. She stood up suddenly and hugged me. Not tight. Not rushed. Like someone holding something real for the first time. I'm sorry, she said into my shoulder. I closed my eyes. I know, I replied. At the venue, the air felt heavy. People whispered. I felt their eyes on me. Some looked curious. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked guilty. The ceremony began. Naomi walked down the aisle. She did not look away from me this time. She smiled. Not the performative smile she wore online. A real one. When it came time for speeches, I didn't expect anything. I planned to stay quiet. But Naomi reached for the microphone. My heart skipped. There's something I need to say, she began. The room stilled. She took a breath. My grandmother raised me, she said. She loved me when it wasn't easy. People shifted. She paid for this wedding, Naomi continued. But more than that, she paid with her silence. My breath caught. She turned toward me. She protected me from things I didn't understand, she said. And I repaid her by wishing she would disappear. Gasps rippled through the room. Naomi's voice shook, but didn't break. That ends today, she said. She set the microphone down and walked to me. She took my hand. I see you now, she whispered. Tears filled my eyes. But I did not cry. No one clapped right away. They didn't know how. Truth had entered the room. And truth makes people uncomfortable before it sets them free. Later, I saw him across the parking lot. Naomi's father. Watching, but not approaching. He looked smaller than I remembered. Truth does that. I did not speak to him. I didn't need to. He had already fallen. Not loudly. Not publicly. But completely. That night, back in my quiet house, I made myself dinner. A good one. I ate slowly. I smiled. I felt full. Naomi called before bed. Grandma, she said, I don't want you to disappear. I smiled into the phone. I won't, I replied. I finally stopped trying to. And for the first time in a very long life, I slept without carrying anyone else's weight. If this story moved you, subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. And tell me in the comments, what country are you watching from? If you're still here with me, thank you. That means you didn't just watch a story. You sat with it. You felt it. And maybe you saw a little bit of yourself in it. After the wedding ended and the house grew quiet again, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The same table where I used to count bills. The same table where I signed checks with shaking hands. The same table where I once wondered if anyone would notice if I disappeared. That night, I noticed something different. I was not tired. Not the deep tired that settles into your bones when you live your life for everyone else. I was calm. For years, I believed love meant giving until there was nothing left. I believed a good woman stayed quiet. I believed a good grandmother never complained. I believed sacrifice was supposed to hurt. And if it hurt enough, maybe it meant you were doing it right. But I was wrong. Love is not supposed to erase you. Care is not supposed to starve you. Family is not supposed to use your silence as a seat to rest on. And respect should never be something you have to beg for. I used to think being strong meant enduring everything. Now I know being strong means knowing when to stop. Some of you watching this right now, you are the grandmother, the mother, the aunt, the woman who gave and gave and gave. You paid with your money. You paid with your time. You paid with your body. You paid with your youth. And now you're being told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much. Let me tell you something very clearly. You are not too much. You were just giving too much to people who didn't know how to hold it. When I stopped paying for the wedding, people said I was cruel. When I stopped staying quiet, people said I was difficult. When I stopped disappearing, people said I had changed. They were right about one thing. I did change. I finally chose myself. And that choice did not destroy my family. It revealed it. You see, when you are always the one fixing things, people panic when you step back. Not because they love you so much, but because they depended on you staying small. I used to believe my worth came from how useful I was, how needed I was, how much I could endure without breaking. But usefulness is not the same as love, and endurance is not the same as dignity. When my granddaughter stood in front of everyone and told the truth, something important happened. Not just for her. For me. I was seen. Not as a wallet. Not as a background figure. Not as someone who would always be there no matter how she was treated. But as a human being. And even if that moment never came, even if she never apologized, I still would have been okay. Because my healing did not depend on her understanding. It depended on my decision to stop disappearing. That is something I want you to hear clearly. Your healing does not require permission. Your dignity does not need approval. Your boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. Some of you stayed in places where you were disrespected because you thought leaving meant failing. You stayed quiet because you thought speaking up meant losing love. You kept giving because you were afraid that, without your sacrifices, you would be forgotten. But here is the truth. People who only value you for what you give will never truly see you. And people who truly love you will adjust when you stop bleeding for them. I did not stop loving my granddaughter. I stopped letting my love cost me my self-respect. There is a difference. If you are watching this and you feel heavy in your chest, that means something inside you is waking up. It might be pain. It might be anger. It might be grief for the version of yourself that stayed too long and asked for too little. That grief is real. Let yourself feel it. But do not let it turn into shame. You survived by being who you had to be at the time. And now you are allowed to become someone new. I am not young anymore. I will not pretend otherwise. My hands ache. My knees complain. Time has written itself all over me. But here is what time also gave me. Clarity. I no longer measure my life by how much I give. I measure it by how much peace I keep. I no longer rush to fix what is not mine to fix. I no longer explain my boundaries to people who benefit from crossing them. If someone says, "You've changed," I smile. Because that means the old version of me is no longer available for abuse. If someone says, "You're selfish," I nod. Because I spent a lifetime being selfless for people who never noticed. If someone says, "You're difficult," I say, "No, I'm finally honest." And if someone says, "I miss the old you," I say, "She needed rest." I want to speak to the daughters and granddaughters watching this too. Not to accuse, but to invite reflection. If a woman in your life has always been there, ask yourself what it cost her. If she never complains, ask yourself who she learned to be silent for. If she gives without limits, ask yourself whether you ever asked how she was doing. Love is not just what you receive. It is how carefully you treat the people who give. I did not need a grand apology. I did not need public praise. I needed respect. And respect begins with listening. This story is not about weddings. It is not about money. It is not about family drama. It is about something deeper. Visibility. So many women fade quietly while everyone else shines. They cook. They clean. They pay. They pray. They sacrifice. And then one day, They realize no one sees them anymore. If this story gave you words for something you've felt, please know this. You are not invisible. You were just surrounded by people who stopped looking. And if you are ready, you can change one thing too. Not everything. Just one. Stop disappearing. Before you go, let me ask you something. Who are you still sacrificing for that has never asked how much it costs you? Who are you afraid to disappoint at the expense of yourself? And what would happen if you chose yourself just once? If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it. Your support helps stories like this reach women who still think silence is love. And tell me in the comments, what country are you watching from? And if this story reminded you of someone, or maybe reminded you of yourself. Because somewhere right now, another woman is paying for everyone else's happiness. And she deserves to be seen too. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for not disappearing.